which is something that being in second year, math business, I had no clue. I had zero know-how. I had never even heard of that in my life. I think it was definitely, I wouldn't say a fear, but it was definitely, how are they gonna listen to us? How are they gonna react? We're students. It's just a flood of really amazing, fulfilling emotions.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of The Young Guy International, the podcast that essentially is meant to create a socially connected world by diving deep into captivating stories and inspiring stories from the different guests that we feature across the world. Obviously, before we get into it, we have to acknowledge the people that help make all this possible. The Office's Research, thank you very much for helping sponsor this. Want to thank Liftoff by CCAWR for helping sponsor the podcast as well. And because we're in a new space, we want to thank Velocity for gracefully giving us the space to use and to feature the different guests, learn from them, and continue to use this as a platform to inspire you lot. On today's episode, I am honored, happy, excited to be interviewing one of the friends that I met recently. She was at the first Young and Restless event in November as a panelist. She is currently still a student, but with big dreams, as she's going to explain and as she's going to tell us more about in today's podcast. I am happy to welcome Daria Margarit to today's episode. Just a small introduction of Daria. Daria is one of the co-founders of Safi, which we are going to get into later on, a wonderful organization that is actually creating impact in East Africa through their milk pasteurizing device. I believe it's one of the first milk pasteurizing devices, if not in Africa, in the world. And she's going to talk to us about the motivation behind it, but also what her and the rest of the co-founders envision for Safi. Welcome, Daria. Thank you for coming. It's good to see you. Welcome. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me. I'm excited. I'm doing good.
No problem. I'm excited to have you here as well. This is the Young Guy International podcast. Every episode, I like to ask my guests to sort of teach us a word or two from maybe their native language. And I know you told me that originally you're from Romania. So I think there are a couple of words that you could teach us, maybe a hello, a goodbye, a thank you, to sort of set the scene for today's podcast.
Okay. I think there's a lot of ways that you can say hi, but I'm going to go with Buna.
Buna.
Oh,
is that the easiest? You can maybe.
I think that's definitely, Buna. It's definitely the easiest.
And then how would someone say, how are you? Like, Buna.
Chafach.
Oh, so Buna Chafach.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's like,
Buna Chafach. It even
hey, what's up?
It has a nice ring to it. Buna Chafach.
Well, it feels nice.
Then how would one say goodbye?
So I think the formalist way, la rivedere. Or you can say ciao.
Ciao. Oh yeah, I think
ciao.
I like ciao. But Lara devere.
Lare devere. Yeah.
Okay, so to open today's episode, it is Buna Chafach. Thank you again, Daria. For those of you that don't know, those of you that are watching or listening to the podcast, I think it would be great to get to know Daria first before we get to know the business. Daria and her journey in Safi. I know you're doing a degree in math, and I think the first question that I did want to ask is, what motivated you to get into doing math as a degree, and what do you sort of envision for yourself with mathematics?
Okay, so I think the rationale was me almost not immediately wanting to pick. I think growing up I really wanted to do architecture, and I was so pressed on that. And when it came time to pick, I just wanted to give myself the option to be able to do something more STEM related, maybe something more business. I started liking business, I guess, towards the later half of high school. But I thought business would be kind of, I didn't think it could stand alone too much. And I was good at math in high school, so it just kind of was the perfect mix in between. And going to two schools kind of had a cool little, feel to it. And I love the co-op aspect, so I just went for it. And I didn't necessarily see myself doing anything specific. I thought maybe I could do architecture if I wanted after I graduate. Maybe I can start my own business. I think I always sort of had that entrepreneurial spirit in me. I was very ready to just be on the move, but I really wanted co-op to kind of act as the deciding factor.
Ooh, that's interesting. And how have you found sort of being in two institutions, how has that sort of helped you in your journey in terms of perspective, one, but also really getting into sort of the kind of work that you're doing?
I think being in two universities, it was really cool to be able to contrast. And I think first semester specifically was very much so on the go. You kind of had to move a lot. Our classes were very, very heavy and there was just a lot of coursework. So I definitely think the core of my time management and planning skills, that's what I can attribute to that first semester, was absolutely instrumental. In terms of, I think COVID played a big part in being able to see how both institutions almost approach, I guess, adversity to some extent, and just like changes and how quickly one adapts and the differences in them adapting. You kind of see, yeah. But I don't think it played a huge part other than time management.
Time management, yeah, obviously, because you're getting classes in one institution and having to balance that with classes in a totally different institution, obviously with their partnerships and whatever, but that time management aspect of it is good. I want to circle back a little bit to the fact that you said that you wanted to get into business, but you always found that maybe wasn't the thing for you, or you eventually realized that, I do want to do business and I want to explore business with the things that I'm currently doing. And I want to connect that to Safi, because Safi is now the venture that you're actively running. And obviously, it's something that I can tell inspires you and, brings in a different kind of Daria than the Daria that people see in class. As a co-founder, obviously you have two other co-founders that have helped you sort of start this organization, Safi. And I know you're going to tell us a bit about Safi and the devices that you're creating and the impact that these devices are having on farmers in East Africa, which is where I'm from. And that's why I think this conversation is going to be great for me to understand and pick your brain on why East Africa. But I want to start with your co-founders, Martin and Miral. How has it been, or I think you could start with how you met and then how you decided to conceptualize creating Safi.
Okay, so we're all around the same program and double degree. We always get both with the CS kids. So it's Mimi CS and then Martin's also math. We kind of first year, we always got both together. And that's kind of where we met. I mean, they both have their own stories on how we met individually, but we met because we're in the same program, essentially. And Safi it came out of a pitch competition. So it was peak COVID. It was second semester, my second year. So 2021, like it was after we had a couple semesters of online, and we were just trying to stay busy because there was not much to look forward to in case comps. Laurier kept advertising them. They're just a great way to kind of just not even get involved, but just get your mind off of the state of the world and maybe try and create an idea. We did really good on a couple of them. We placed second in the one right before we created Safi. So we knew we had a good kind of team flowing and rolling. And there was this UN climate change competition that got brought on where you tackle one of the sustainable goals and you try to tie that back to climate change and how you can find a solution. And that's kind of the story of how Safi was born. But yeah, everything kind of came through being in the same degree and just kind of wanting to get involved
in the same thing. And you said Safi started sort of as a concept in 2021, being involved in different case competitions. But what was the thinking behind creating a milk pasteurization device? I think that would be a great thing for people to understand. And also for those who are not familiar with what Safi is, maybe you could give them a bit of context about what Safi is, what it means, because it has a meaning in Swahili, but what does it mean to you guys and why the milk pasteurization device?
Okay, so Safi means safe in Swahili, and
someone told me it means fresh.
I think so. When we were picking out the name, we were sitting there on Google Translate, putting in words and seeing what just kind of was either pretty or just had a good roll off the tongue. Yeah. And I think Safi, it's very translatable in a lot of languages, and it's very easy to say in a lot of languages. True. But it does mean fresh. It can mean clean. It means safe. It really, I think, depends on the specific dialect. But it's a good word. I think we did really good on the name. But why milk pasteurization? So that was kind of the competition and the prompt that we had, and we were a bigger team, so we were, I think, 6 people in this initial competition, and it was a pretty long-winded one. We got an advisor, and they made the judges were a really big deal. It was a bunch of people from WHO and just higher ups.
Yes.
And I think we were just trying to find an idea, something that we could tackle. We didn't want to necessarily do something big because we knew that we couldn't really think of a big grand scale solution. And Mimi, she grew up in Oman. And I think her younger sister was doing a project at the time. And it was kind of around her house, the concept of just climate change worsening and impacting camel farmers because of the droughts. Now, cow farmers are switching to camels. And so that's a direct connection to climate change. And just people getting sick because camels carry inherently more diseases. So we're like, hey, how do we, if we were to tackle that, what would we even do? And we learned a little bit about milk and what it means to clean milk, how humans could get in touch with diseases from milk. And it all sort of tied back down to the route of pasteurization, which is something that, being in second year, math business, I had no clue. I had zero know-how. I had never even heard of that in my life. But it really is quite simple, and it's just getting milk to a certain temperature below boiling. And so you've got to get milk to 72 degrees for 15 seconds, and that's basically it. But just make sure that those two measures are met properly. So on that little bit of architecture, I knew SketchUp because I was really obsessed with just like creating things, online houses. So I built the first prototype. I didn't know CAD. I just put together shapes just so we had something to demo in the competition. And we won. They loved the problem because it was tackleable. They loved the fact that it was a simple solution. It was a pretty elegant solution to a problem that we identified. And our advisor and the judges really, I don't think we would have really pursued it had it not been for their advice and just their, this is great, like get it beyond a competition, try and roll with it, see what happens if you try to build it out. And that's really like kind of what sparked the fire.
And on that point of having advisors, how did they sort of help mentor, but also connect and build your network around? Now you have a vast array of people that are helping you create these devices, but also using these different people to sort of connect you with people where you can actually implement the devices that you have.
So initially that competition really just gave us money. And there were some people that, again, we were just doing it initially to make it. Case comps are a great way to make money. And we had done a couple really just for that plot. But so there was some people that just left. They weren't really interested by the idea. And then we kind of stuck with it and we tried to go, okay, where can we move? What's the next thing that we could do? Milk pasteurization and farmers in East Africa are a very specific niche that we didn't necessarily get any leads from that competition, although they did open some doors for us. I remember our next step being, we all knew of concept, velocity. They're all over campus from first year. So we're like, okay, let's try and pitch there. Let's see if, let's go back to what we know, at least some familiarity, university. So we went to concept and we won concept. And from then on, I think that's what kind of opened the gate to the University of Waterloo and their involvement in Safi.
Wow. And you mentioned East Africa. I think people know, or those that don't know, Safi, your devices right now are being piloted in East Africa.
Yes.
2 countries in particular, correct me if I'm wrong, Rwanda and Kenya.
Yeah.
My question to you is, why East Africa? Because here's why. Obviously, you and Martin, I assume you've grown up in Canada your whole life, and then Miral from Oman. Why would you take this concept and then skip Oman, and then bring it to East Africa? What was the thinking behind that?
I think it was sort of a legacy thing. So when we had started at that competition, the country that we just identified was Tanzania. They just kind of had the most reports and cases, and we just generalized without really even knowing. And a lot of rationale, we generalized East Africa within Tanzania. And we landed on specifically Rwanda and Kenya. So again, part of what do we do next? We know we need to talk to people. We know we need to build something. We're not engineers. So at the start of it, I think it was just a lot of groundwork on trying to find people. And with that came, let's apply to more competitions, more concept pitch competitions. And we got into an incubator in Vienna called Validate Global. And they were instrumental in helping us get to Rwanda because they had very strong network connections with Kigali. Well, they had a couple. I think it was Ghana, one of them, I think. Regardless, we just landed on Rwanda because we came to find out that they're huge on milk. They love milk. They have milk bars like we would have just regular bars. So they helped us get to Rwanda initially and helped establish some of the the first main governmental contacts that we ever had in Africa. And from then, using that network, we kind of landed in Kenya and Uganda. We just got invited to the milk conference. So that has just been like our little reach in East Africa.
And obviously, you have been there physically. You have tested the product with the different farmers. When you go to test your products with the farmers from here in Canada, and then you take them to East Africa and the different countries, how is it received in terms of bringing in this new technology? Because I would assume that, and I know that there is technology that they use there. How was your product received in terms of, this is a new thing that can actually help us pasteurize our milk better and then have us have safer milk, so to speak? How was it received when you did go to East Africa?
For sure. I guess, so the two main things that we kind of center and hone in on is the fact that milk is safer and that they can make more money off of the milk that they're not producing, because the quality of the milk is better, and you're kind of bringing in pasteurization, which is a historically very industrial domain, you're bringing it to the start of the supply chain, the farmers.
True.
So that was the whole really intention. They could make more money, and we're also solving the problem of unsafe milk. When we went there, I think it was definitely, I wouldn't say a fear, but it was definitely, how are they gonna listen to us? How are they gonna react? We're students.
Yeah.
We don't really look like subject matter domains. And
There's
I mean,
misconception.
Exactly. So everybody was extremely welcoming, just extremely receptive, extremely willing to listen. They gave us the time of day, which is, in hindsight, more than we could have ever asked for. But yeah, no, they were extremely willing to listen, to look at it, to play with it, to investigate it. Some of them were more quick to want to give us feedback or see what they wanted. Initially, we brought just a manual one where they had to sit there, kind of like an egg beater. And there was another more battery-powered electric one. And we assumed, okay, we knew that maybe electricity would be a problem, but, maybe they wouldn't want to do things manual. So that discovery research, we learned that. They were like, no, of course, just give us the battery. Why would we want to sit there and have it be mechanical? It's the modern age. So they're extremely receptive.
That's true. And right now, are they using some of the products that you took? You have farmers that are actively using it?
So the second time we went was more us starting the pilots, and it was much more focused on Rwanda, and where the ministry kind of saw a fit there was more in kiosks. So that's just kind of milk retailers. So we had 6 of them operating in milk kiosks, sitting, generating data. And we had one in Kenya that we left behind. We weren't really even expecting. So the first time we went, there's a lot of field work, I guess, just making connections, saying hi, getting the lay of the land. That's what we did the second time in Kenya. The first time in Rwanda, we had it set up. So when we went the second time, it was easy to start the pilots. But yeah, we just have one actual farmer in Kenya using it, and the rest are in kiosks in Kigali.
And in terms of the business model that you guys are using, do you sell the devices to the farmers? Are you trying to partner with the governments to sort of procure a certain amount of these devices and then sell to their farmers? Or what are you guys looking at in terms of how you're going to make essentially money out of the product that you've created?
For sure. So that's one of the, I guess, bigger challenges that we've kind of came to face with. Everything started out very research-based, and when we went to Africa, it was very much so validating our research. And things as you read in literature aren't necessarily how things are in reality. The business model, there's a couple of different... First of all, I guess just a little bit of background. Milk supply chains differ intensively, not even between countries, but between regions, even counties within the same region. It's just a supply and demand issue and how many farmers there are, but to be tasked with a general business model for everything, we realized that it might not be very applicable. So there could be a B2C where the farmers are the customers, but that's not necessarily the best approach, we've come to learn, because they just don't necessarily have the capital to be able to invest. So yeah, I can't really necessarily speak to a honed-in business model, but it would be more governmental contracts, because there's a data bit associated with it.
Okay.
The informal market represents 90% of the milk market, and data is not being tracked. Nobody knows where the milk goes. So there's the data contracts that we could conceptually make with the governments. There's also selling the device, the government sponsoring the devices to their farmers, because we're solving the problem of unsafe milk.
Exactly, yeah. And I think this is a question you've probably not been asked yet, but I think it's worth asking. Do you eventually see Safi being taken over by maybe a government agency or a different organization that sees the capability it has and the impact that it stands to gain in these different regions? Would you guys be receptive to saying, if an offer comes that is willing to say, look, we will take your device, because I believe it's patented.
Yes, we're patent pending.
You're patent pending right now. So if in let's say a couple years from now, once obviously you've done the groundwork, and government agency comes and says, we would like to take this from you and implement it, how would you guys receive that? Would you be receptive to it? Would you feel like it would be best to sort of have a relationship with them and maintain the connection, but say, we'll let you continue to run it?
I mean, from the start, we knew that we weren't solving our problem. Unsafe milk is not something that I have been personally a victim of. I'm not making a device to solve my problem. And we knew that we needed experts. So I think it's not to say that we're looking for the best deal out there to sell Safi, but I do think that we require expertise, and a lot of it does rely on a relationship that you establish with the government. So I think we would all want to be involved in the process of what that change means and what it would be. And I don't think we would ever close a door on anybody's nose and say no. I mean, if you think you can help, by all means. But yeah.
That's true. The reason I say that is because I'm starting to realize that right now we have sort of a ton of major companies, obviously with the capital, with the financial backing, to sort of absorb people's ideas and absorb their initiatives and sort of create them into a large scale thing. And I think that makes sense, because then through that, if you're looking at it as a business, you make a strategic decision and say, okay, I'm going to give you the business to run because you have the capacity to do so, but I want X amount from whatever maybe sale you make or dividends out of it. But from your answer, I can tell it's more impact focused and impact driven, and it's not a solution that you're sort of saying, we're going to make it simply because we want to make money from it. Mm-hmm. You're creating devices that are actually going to impact the lives of these different farmers and the different people that consume the milk at the end of the day. This has been a business for you. And it's been a journey, and you've learned a ton of stuff from this journey. What key things, obviously, have you learned from this journey of starting a business, going through different case competitions, winning, and now actually having a device and traveling from Canada to East Africa, places you've never been to before, and actively being part of, this conversation and impact?
One of the biggest learnings, I think, I'm trying to think of something that I would have not known had it not been for Safi, and I genuinely think that's relationships, and the world in a sense is one, and if people are willing to help, if you're willing to ask, and being able to ask and I guess understand what you don't know and be willing to accept that you don't know, and that reading a book might not really help you in knowing. So that's just been the biggest thing. Even if you don't know, there's somebody out there who is an expert. Matter of fact, in whatever you do, there's probably somebody that knows more.
True.
So be humble enough to go ask for help, because you'll get further than you would be by yourself.
True. And I think the other part of the question was, how does it feel? How did it feel sort of traveling across the world and actually implementing? Obviously, there must have been an excitement, but what did it feel like for you leaving Canada and saying, I'm going there and I'm going to do this?
It was the most exciting just blur of emotions ever. I think I've always had an adventurous spirit, so that part of me was so excited to see a corner of the world that I would probably have never stepped foot in had it not been for Safi.
True.
But to see, you read so much about it. You read so much about your target users. You read so much about what things are like in Rwanda, specifically when we were going the first time, that it's kind of crazy to put what you're seeing in your head. It's almost like when you read a book and then you get to watch the movie. Like, you're seeing everything play out in person, but then it's kind of oh wow, like I kind of built that, and they're holding it. It's just a flood of really amazing, fulfilling emotions.
True. And how are you able to manage sort of running Safi with two other co-founders? Like, what's it like? I would want to assume that I would love to assume that it's obviously not always a bed full of roses. I'm like, yeah, Morale said this, we're gonna go with it. Martin said this, we're gonna go with it. You're obviously butting heads because this person wants to do X and then you want to do X. How has it been sort of taking all your initiatives and cultivating a feeling of, we're in this together and we're going to take different perspectives, but at the end of the day, we are trying to achieve this vision or this goal?
I think you're very right. It's obviously not always going to be a bed of roses, but I think we always say that I cannot necessarily see myself in Safi because Safi isn't me. Safi's the work. It's like it's the baby of the three of us. So it's definitely a little bit of all our brains. And the challenge, I think, comes in we're all very strong personalities, and I think
that's true.
We're all very interested and curious individuals, and I think we just we just want to do the best. So there's definitely push and pulls, but I think at the end of the day, we're not doing something for us. So it's about moving everything forward. So whatever cats and dogs arguments we could have, or whatever disagreements or misalignments, they all get subsided by just trying to move everything forward. And I mean, we're all friends at the end of the day, and there's a lot of love and appreciation and respect that I think is core to that. But
I think I agree. I think having teams is key, and also trusting people. I find that with the things that I do, obviously I wouldn't be where I am in terms of what the Young Guy Initiative has been able to do if it was not for the people that I work with and trusting them, with the vision and saying, we are in this together. We respect each other. We trust each other, but we are not the initiative, or we are not the idea. And like you said, I like the fact that you said that you are not Safi, because what that tells me is that regardless of whatever happens to you, or what happens to or you and maybe your co-founders, you'll be okay with Safi continuing to run, because it is sort of bigger than the individual, which is true. I agree. The other questions that I did want to explore with you, Safi has won a number of different accolades. You guys won the Social Impact Showcase, Greenhouse. You won Velocity's Upstart. You won Concept as well. And then you won the Enactus in Canada, but then also internationally as well.
We placed third.
You placed, but you were still there. Top 3 is still a win, because that's recognition, and that goes a long way. And how was that felt in terms of, because your idea is just 3 years old, if we are to actually,
baby.
It's a baby, but it's sort of getting a ton of support. How have you guys been able to stay level-headed and understand that, okay, we're getting all this money, we're getting all this recognition, but we need to stay level-headed and we need to stay focused with our vision? Because as you continue to get this recognition, more people are going to come in. And as more people come, they're going to want to tell you, why don't you try it this way? Why don't you do it this way? So how do you filter them out? But then also, how do you guys stay level-headed and keep true to the vision regardless of all this recognition and financial support that you're getting?
I think the recognition plays a big part in whenever we're stuck or whenever we're unsure about something and then we win a competition. It's like, okay, there's people that maybe if we're stuck, the vision is bigger and people understand it and there's value there. So let's keep pushing it forward. That's what the recognition has been absolutely amazing for. In terms of keeping the idea moving forward, the money goes back into Safi. So without the money that we'd win from these competitions, the scrapbooking of all these different foundations and companies and amazing people, we wouldn't be able to move. We wouldn't be able to go. We wouldn't be able to build a prototype. So that's what it goes directly into.
True. And obviously looking ahead in terms of what Safi intends to do, how do you guys envision making this more than just in East Africa and to sort of taking it maybe Africa-wide, but then also internationally? Because I know there are different areas in the Middle East, in different areas that might need devices like this. How do you guys envision, or have you not looked that far?
We get that question a lot, honestly. And I think in the most immediate, we want to be able to build and to facilitate a good, substantial pilot. Proof of concept, have that be strong. You can't crack a foundation. That's what we're doing right now. And while we're in still school, taking advantage of everything to build out the concept so that it's scalable to all these other regions. East Africa is only 1% of where milk pasteurization could be used as a solution for unsafe milk. It works. I mean, India's the biggest milk market in the world. South America is absolutely insane. Even South Africa, probably. It's a problem everywhere. So it's definitely scalable, but it's a matter of right now not getting so into the future and focusing on the present. And we can't get to India if we haven't properly
created a pilot
Exactly.
and proof of concept. Here's a question. Do you ever get, I think this might be a bit personal, do you ever get people sort of coming to you and saying, but why should we listen to you? You have not seen or you have not felt this. Why should we trust and believe in you to help solve our problems?
Thankfully, with all my heart, nobody has ever said that to me because I don't know what I would say. But I listen, you don't need to. I know that there's probably something out there that, I don't really know.
I mean, it obviously it's just a thought that came to me when you were explaining. It was like, wait, right now the world that we're in, we have so many people that are trying to put people down, even though they are trying their best to sort of help people get to where they are. And the reason I was asking that is obviously because I have seen people try to do the best that they can do for a different region, but there are barriers. And one of the main barriers is the conception that people have towards the person that's helping them. And so I just wanted to sort of pick your brain on that and see whether it has happened to you. Thankfully, it hasn't.
No. I don't know how I would. Yeah, no. I definitely think through case comps, we've heard a lot of feedback, and there's definitely been a lot of people that have kind of been unsure about our own capacity to be able to facilitate something like this.
How do you deal with that? Because it is something as young people, I've seen it a ton of times. Many people say, hey, genuinely, I don't think you're going to be able to pull this off. So how do you as Daria deal with that when people say, you're still too young to be doing something of this capacity?
Genuinely, that's fair. I see where you're coming from, but you don't know me and you don't know my team and you don't know who's behind my team. We have experts beyond my own knowledge. We have people that we trust and that trust us back. So yeah, me, Daria, I understand. What am I doing in East Africa? But I'm not, everything isn't just me. So
it's bigger than you. And like you said previously, as you were explaining, is that you are not Safi. You're just sort of, it is your baby and you're trying to use it to sort of have an impact and implement it to the different people that would need it. Safi's journey, obviously, from idea to conception now, trying to get it to proof of concept, has been what you said, it has been fulfilling for you. What advice would you have to sort of someone that is starting a business, maybe here in the region of Waterloo, Kitchener, but beyond? We have people watching this from across the world. What advice would you have for them, to sort of implement, start something, get out there, use their experiences, go for different case competitions? What advice would you give them to sort of say, you can actually do this if you put your heart and mind to it?
I think the presence of the moment is key. And when you're starting something out, you could kind of sit down in a room and think, oh my God, but we're going to need to do this. And then after that, we're going to have to worry about this. And then, oh my God, the legal stuff and where we're going to get money and where can we produce this? How are we going to get here? And you're just kind of overwhelming yourself with a bunch of things that at the beginning are not of your concern. So just kind of turn a blind eye and almost a child perspective in the sense of, yeah, I can do this, and take it day by day. Don't overwhelm yourself at the beginning. Knowing what I know now, had I told myself, this is what your 3 years are going to consist of, I think I don't know if I would have done it. Yeah. Take it day by day.
Take it day by day. And if you were to sort of tell first year Daria, obviously now Daria's graduating this year, if you were to tell first year Daria something or a piece of advice in regards to what she should do or what she should continuously tell herself, and in terms of what's coming, what would you tell her?
If you ask first year me, I don't even think I would think that I would be graduating, but trust the process. Trust the process. Things will fall into place. Just
get it going, because you never know. I mean, the different people that you met, Martin, morale. Now you guys are creating things. You have impact, across the world. I recently saw you guys. I was in Europe where you were presented. Was that an
An
actress?
actress, yes.
That was huge. I was like, wow, these guys are actually having, creating this kind of impact, but they're sharing their story with different people. And what I like about the things like that is that you're inspiring people to do more. And how does it feel, obviously, when you are up there and you have people listening to you and you can tell that you're inspiring someone else? For you, how does that personally make you feel when you know that I have the capacity now to inspire someone else through the work that I'm doing?
That's very deep. I don't think I've ever thought of me inspiring anyone really. Like that's
really?
not something
but you do inspire people.
Maybe, but I think actively I don't think in that way. Like, oh wow, people might be listening. I think that would I think I make it a very big point to try and just be present in the moment, and that would just kind of, oh my god, wait, but am I saying the right things? Because if there's people listening, but I think it's absolutely insane of a thought to say that we could be inspiring people, and it makes sense, but
I know what you mean. And as we wrap up, I have noticed from your different answers sort of a theme in what you've been saying. The people behind you, the co-founders, the mentors that you've had, the experts. And I like asking my guests these questions. The first two I asked was about their parents and what role their parents played. So you can answer in terms of what role your parents have played in sort of helping you in your journey. But also I would like to know your mentors and the people that you've surrounded yourself with. How have they been able to help you? And how do you select the right people to be around?
Okay. I think my parents are the most amazing people in the world. They're the most supportive people that I have in my life. And I remember when we first went and we showed them the video, they're like, oh, this is absolutely great, cool. And whenever I'll tell them updates about Safi, they're like, okay, cool. My dad's he's an engineer, I think, at heart without any certification. So at first I remember he was like, oh, what if you guys use this and built it like this? And they're both very, very interested and supportive.
Yeah.
In terms of who we pick to be advisors, because we know we're tackling a very specific problem, we know that we can't necessarily be picky. But if you're coming and you're interested in us, that means there's a lot of love in your heart and you're very impact driven. So I think Safi isn't a ploy to make a lot of money. It's not a very lucrative industry as it is. So I think inherently you need to have a good heart and you need to be willing to make an impact for people that might not be your own. So if there's that kind of at the base and you know more than us, you're an expert in whatever it is, which is not hard because we're still students,
true.
Then you're a good fit.
And away from Daria, away from Safi, what does Daria envision herself doing sort of the next 5 to 10 years when she's graduated? What would be an ideal scenario or situation for Daria?
I always used to say before everything that I wanted to be the jack of all trades, master of none, that I just wanted to try a little bit of everything. And I think looking back at my life, there's always been a theme of creating, whether that's building a pasteurization device. I think that's maybe why I initially wanted to build buildings or build businesses. I think my journey for sure in the next 10 years will definitely revolve to some capacity around creating, around building. And
so you think that at the end of the day, you might go back into the architect in you?
Or I don't think so.
Not full-time, obviously, in terms of building buildings, but using sort of that passion to build other things.
Yeah, build businesses, build companies, build ideas, build off concepts, build relationships, however you want to spin that. But I think architecture is a little bit long gone. And yeah, I think I really do like the world of entrepreneurship, which is building at its core. So if Safi's great and it's amazing, I mean, you're there, you see a whole bunch of other things that your eye kind of sparkles. Oh, wait, I think I have a cool idea for this. So we use the learnings of what we make and maybe we move onto another domain of milk. Maybe we move into something else.
Because Safi does definitely have the potential to grow and become more than just a milk pasteurization device. It
100%.
And if you're thinking of it that way, I think there's a ton of stuff that you could definitely... It's limitless, exactly. And we're still young at the end of the day. There's a lot... and restless. And there's a lot of potential that we still are capable of achieving. And obviously through the connections and the networks that we have, it is definitely going to be something great to see for the both of us. Obviously, we have milked Safi quite a lot, no pun intended. But as we wrap up again, I wanted to get to know Daria sort of just a bit. What are your hobbies, Daria?
For whatever time I have left, I love movies. I love music. I like clothes.
Music. I had a interview with the second person on the podcast, Rowena, and we had a huge debate and discussion around music because she's an artist. So I wanted to ask you as well, what kind of music do you listen to?
I don't think I necessarily have a genre in specific. I definitely love R&B, rap, pop. Recently, Afrobeats.
Recently.
If East Africa has had an influence on it, I've been liking that a lot. I like older music too. I really like instrumentals, Jay Dilla-esque type thing in the background.
Okay. It's everything, yeah?
Yeah.
Whatever sparks the soul, that's what we're moving with.
Exactly.
That is great. Well, thank you, Daria, for being on the podcast today. I appreciate you taking the time to come out, obviously talk to us about Safi, your journey, obviously in Safi, meeting Martin and Miral, but also what you envision for Safi, because personally, I think it does have the potential. If I was to value it in my mind, I think it has it has a huge potential not only to create impact, but to sort of have this lasting legacy. And you three being sort of the people behind it with the different experts that you are working with. It's great to see. I mean, it inspires me to see you guys coming all the way from Canada, going to East Africa and tackling such a problem. So thank you for that, first of all, for helping tackle that problem. But thank you again for being on the podcast today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. No problem.
And to those of you watching, thank you for watching the fourth episode of The Young Guy International. It is on YouTube, so please like, comment, and subscribe and do all the interesting things. If you would like to support Safi, is Safi still looking for people to support?
Oh, 100%. We're always looking for people to support.
What I'll do is we will put the link to Safi's website in the description for this particular episode. And if you do want to reach out to the Safi team, please let me know. But also their link sort of has the contact information that they can use. If you're in East Africa and you do want to help them, whether it's in Uganda, Rwanda, Kenya, Tanzania, please, let's help Safi. They have a great initiative. All right, so thank you again. To the listeners as well, if you're listening to this, it'll be great to come over to YouTube, watch the episode. The set's great. We have great guests. So thank you again. It was great having you again, Daria. And we will see you on the next episode of The Young Guy International. Over and out.